I never went camping alone again after that night in Montana. For years, I convinced myself it was just exhaustion, stress, maybe even a dream. But there's one thing I still can't explain. Something outside my tent knew my name. Back in 2018, I was really into solo backpacking, not the casual kind either. I liked getting deep into national forests where there were no campsites, no signal, and sometimes no people for miles. It felt peaceful, like the world finally stopped making noise. That October, I took a 4-day trip through a forest in western Montana. The trail itself was barely maintained. Most people avoided it because several bridges had collapsed years earlier, forcing hikers to cross freezing streams on foot, which honestly made me want to try it even more. The first day was normal, cold air, pine trees, silence. I passed only one other person the entire afternoon, an older man carrying hunting gear. He stopped when he saw me, not in a friendly way either. He just stared at me for a second too long. Then he asked, "Camping alone?" I said yeah. He looked past me into the trees before saying quietly, "Don't answer anybody calling your name after dark." Then he walked off the trail and disappeared into the woods. I remember laughing about it afterward. I figured he was just trying to scare me. By evening, I found a small clearing near a creek and set up camp. The forest there felt strange, not dangerous exactly, just empty. No birds, no insects, nothing. Even the creek sounded muted somehow. I ate dinner, hung my food bag and climbed into my tent around 9. At first, everything was fine. I listened to the wind moving through the trees and nearly fell asleep. Then I heard footsteps, slow footsteps circling the tent. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I froze immediately. At first I thought it was a deer, but the footsteps stopped directly beside my head. And then, silence. I waited. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. That's when I heard breathing, right outside the tent wall. Slow, wet, human breathing. I grabbed my flashlight and knife, but didn't move. After maybe 30 seconds, the footsteps continued again. They slowly circled away from the tent and disappeared into the forest. I barely slept after that. Every tiny sound kept me awake. Branches snapping, leaves moving, the feeling of being watched. Around maybe 2 a.m., I heard it again. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The footsteps returned. This time, they stopped directly in front of the tent entrance. And then I heard a woman's voice, very softly. "Daniel." My blood went cold. There shouldn't have been anybody out there. And I never told anyone where I was hiking. For a second, I actually considered answering. The voice sounded familiar somehow, like someone I knew. Then I remembered the hunter. "Don't answer anybody calling your name after dark." I stayed completely silent. The voice came again, closer this time. "Daniel, please." The way it spoke felt wrong, like someone trying to imitate emotion without understanding it. I slowly reached for my flashlight and switched it on. The light illuminated the thin fabric of the tent, and I saw a silhouette standing outside, too tall to be normal. Its head nearly reached the lower branches above my campsite. But what terrified me most was how still it stood. No shifting weight, no movement, just perfectly motionless. Then the voice changed. Now it sounded like my mother. "Daniel, open the tent." I felt panic completely take over my body. There was no possible explanation anymore. I zipped open the opposite side of the tent as quietly as I could. The moment my foot touched the ground outside, the thing moved. Not walking, not running, It jerked sideways unnaturally fast through the trees. I heard branches snapping everywhere around me. I grabbed my pack and sprinted into the forest. I didn't even care about the trail anymore. I just ran. And the entire time, I could hear voices behind me. Different voices. My mother, my brother, my best friend, all calling my name from different directions in the dark. At one point, I looked behind me with my flashlight. I wish I hadn't. For maybe 1 second, the beam landed on it between the trees. Its body looked stretched and uneven. Its arms were far too long, and its face looked blank, like wet skin pulled tightly over a skull. No eyes, no mouth, just smooth flesh. But somehow, it was still speaking. I ran until sunrise. Eventually, I reached an old service road where a ranger found me sitting against a sign, shaking uncontrollably. I tried explaining what happened, but even while talking about it, I sounded insane. The ranger searched the campsite later that day. He told me they found my tent exactly where I left it. Nothing damaged, nothing stolen. But around the campsite, they found footprints, bare human footprints, except they were impossibly long and deep enough in the ground that whatever made them must have been extremely heavy. I never got an explanation, but a few months later, I started researching stories from people living near remote forests, and one detail kept appearing over and over again. Never respond when something calls your name in the wilderness at night, especially if the voice sounds familiar, because sometimes it isn't trying to talk to you, it's trying to make you answer.